Hey, what's going on? Joe McCall here, and today I got something pretty cool to share with you about Airbnb. Hey, so I'm doing some black and white here because I thought it would be different. It would catch your attention. But how you doing, guys? Want to say hello? I'm going to show you here in just a minute something really cool that I'm doing with Brian Page, a friend of mine, who is crushing it on Airbnb. And here's the cool thing. I've got a lot of students that are crushing it on Airbnb. And when I say crushing it, I mean it. Instead of giving a couple $100s a month in cash flow doing a deal, they're getting a couple $1,000s a month in cash flow doing deals. So I've been teaching for a long time how to do lease options, how to get deals, and how to get leads doing some really creative marketing, getting properties under a lease option contract. But what if you took one of these lease options and turned it into an Airbnb? What kind of money could you make? What kind of money could you make? So if you guys can, type in the comments box. Let me know that you can hear me and see me, because it looks kind of quiet out there, and I know it's kind of maybe late on a Friday, so a lot of you are not paying attention. I get it. But I want to show you something really cool. You ready for this? Let me pop up my screen here. I want to show you guys, I did a podcast with Brian Page. You can get it at realestateinvestingmastery.com, realestateinvestingmastery.com. And I'll put this in the comments later on so you can take a look at it. This podcast was really, really good. And we did a couple webinars with Brian this week. We're going to be doing an encore webinar this weekend. And if you want more information about this webinar, by the way, let me take you. Oh, good. You guys can see me. Nice. Hi, Margie. Hi, Allie. And hi, R-Dub. What's going on, guys? You guys, if you want to get on this webinar, go to REIM Podcast. That's for Real Estate Investing Mastery, by the way. reimpodcast.com/Brian. And I'm getting students that are taking their lease option deals, turning them into Airbnbs. And again, I wanted to show you a really cool calculator that you can get right here at this link, propertyprofitscalculator.com. Write that down, propertyprofitscalculator.com. All right. Now I'm going to show you my screen and show you what is actually going on this property profits calculator. Again, go listen to the pod to get the context of everything we're talking about. Go listen to this podcast. I'll put the link in the comments. It's at realestateinvestingmastery.com. I did this podcast with Brian this week, and I'm getting a lot of students that are doing deals. Well, here's a calculator, and this is free. I just sent you access to this, propertyprofitscalculator.com. And I'm just going to show you an example of what I'm talking about, because a lot of people think that you can only do Airbnbs on the really nice areas. So like if I were to show you in Zillow here real quick, people think, in St. Louis area, this is this Forest Park, Central West End, the baseball Cardinal Stadium is right here. This is Soulard down here. Everybody thinks that you can only do Airbnbs in like the really nice touristy areas where everybody wants to stay. But that's not the case. You can do Airbnbs way out in the suburbs, in the blue collar areas, where out here in the suburbs, you can do Airbnbs anywhere. It doesn't have to be in the nice touristy areas. And I'm going to show you an example of what that might look like. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to, in Zillow, I'm going to go to the for rent section. I'm going to look for all the homes that are maybe between $950 and $1,050 a month in rent that are 2+ bedrooms that are only houses, okay? Because I like just dealing with houses here. Now, I'm going to zoom in here. And actually, I'm going to go up here to this area. This is Florissant, Hazelwood, even Ferguson. Believe it or not, there's a lot of nice Airbnbs in Ferguson. Some of you have heard of that. And these guys are doing really well. So I'm going to avoid, one of the things I like to do actually is this draw tool. I'll do a draw in Zillow here. A lot of people don't want to typically do deals in the areas I'm not circling there. I'm just going into this area. All right. And I'm looking for low rent to high. I'm looking at properties here. I'm looking for a property that might be got a good, nice curb appeal for an Airbnb, right? And these are properties, again, that rent for $850 to $1,050 a month. What's a nice looking Airbnb house that's got maybe some cute curb appeal. This one might look nice, maybe. Let's go to page 2 here. Look at this one. This looks nice, doesn't it? This is a house in Florissant, rents for $10.50 a month. Let's look at the interior photos. Looks really nice. Looks like it was just rehabbed. Maybe it was rehabbed to be a rental. Maybe they tried to sell it. I don't know. Here's the Google Street View of the property. Let's look at the neighborhood. This is a nice blue-collar neighborhood. This isn't in the touristy areas. Nice blue-collar area, right? People take care of their yards. Looks real nice. I'll show you on a map kind of where it is. Zoom out a little bit. There's Ferguson. You've heard of Ferguson in the news. It's actually a really good area. It's not that bad. Florissant, Hazelwood, downtown is right here. So all of the people that think that the most popular areas for Airbnb are down here by Central West End and Forest Park and Soulard Baseball Stadium. Everybody thinks down here is kind of where the Airbnbs are. This is a property that's up here. So I'm going to just look for Airbnb. Let's go here and let's go to Florissant, where we are. Let's go to search. Let's look for homes. I'm going to show you what our homes are there in this area and maybe what they would rent for on Airbnb. And then we're going to look at what the numbers would be potentially. So I'm going to go here. I want home type. I want the entire place. I'm not interested in just the doing rooms. And where this property is at is right at the intersection of 270 and 170, right? Yes, see there's 170, there's 270 right there. So let's zoom in this area. All right, look, we've got homes for 100, 125, 65. Here's a house that's in the area. It's in Ferguson, right there. There's Ferguson. $79 a night. And look at, they're getting 23. Their super hosts are getting good reviews. This is a charming Ferguson bungalow, 3-bedroom, 1 bath. Let's just look at it real quick. And it's a nice little house. This is in Ferguson. They even advertise it, Old Town Ferguson right here, near airport. Let's look how much availability he has. Look at this. This is solid. April, a lot of closed up, a lot of zero vacancies. Hardly, there's 1 night of vacancy here. In May, we've got a lot of occupancy already. June, almost completely filled in June. This is nice. July as well. So now I don't know if this is a guy who lives there that just rents it out or if he does Airbnb professionally. I don't know, but he's a super host, so I'm assuming that he does. And he's not renting this by the bedroom. He's renting the whole thing out. So this is a nice house. And just by looking at it, it looks like it's a professional Airbnb, right? It's not much in there to be staged, but he's getting $79 a night. Not bad, right? All right, let's go back here to Property Profits Calculator. Let's say you contact this owner of this property or the property manager or whatnot, and you get it under a lease option contract, or maybe you give it under a master lease or some kind of agreement to lease this property. And if you get Brian's course, he teaches you additional ways to get it, and just get an agreement with him, a management agreement or something like that. All right, my phone's ringing here. So let's say you get it for $10.50. You give him the full asking price that he wants. And I'm just going to use round numbers here. $30 a month for water, power, $100 a month, internet, $50 a month, parking, $0, cable, $0, because we're going to be using internet. We got Netflix for $12 a month. Insurance, do you really need insurance? No. Let's say there's gas bill of $50 a month. All right. So I'm paying rent of $10.50 a month, and I'm paying the utilities, and I'm being conservative here, right? So let's say the weekday rate. Again, this property is getting $79 a night. Let's do $75 a night here. $75 a night, and I'm going to make weekends a little higher. You can always get higher on the weekends there. Occupancy. Let's be conservative, and let's do 60% occupancy. All right, not bad. Cash flowing $83 a month. Nothing to write home about, right? But look, this calculator figures out what the Airbnb fees are right here and what the front desk fees are as well. Now, Brian teaches how to set up Airbnb where you have a management team that basically manages it for you. You can literally outsource almost the whole thing. But you know what? The way Brian teaches it, 60% is really actually kind of bad. If you got a nice house like we have here, this is a great house, great curb appeal, close to the freeway. It's in nice shape. You just need to furnish it a little bit, and Brian teaches how to furnish these things. You look at this house, he's getting a 79 a night. What about some of these other houses? This is something that's near the airport. That doesn't make sense. Here's a house nearby that gets $150 per night. What about this property, $125 a night? Again, these are the blue collar areas, right? Go back to this calculator. Well, what if we'll keep it at 75, be conservative here. Let's bump this up to something more realistic, which you can easily do, 80%. Oh, look at this. Now you're getting $540 a month cash flow at 80% occupancy. But again, looking at this house, he's getting maybe 90% occupancy. Let's move it up to 90% occupancy, which is not that bad, not that difficult to do. $770 in cash flow on one property that's already, you're giving the tenant, you're giving the management landlord exactly the rent that they want. Now, sometimes you might be able to go to this landlord and say, listen, I can do Airbnb. What if I split the profits with you 50-50? Can you lower the rent? And he might be able to lower the rent to $800 a month, and you split it with him 50-50. Just if he says no, maybe you can offer something like that, okay? But let's just say you're giving him exactly what he wants, and you're doing it as a lease option. As a lease option, you can turn around and then do it as a sandwich lease option or an Airbnb, whatever you want. Now, how much money or how many of these kinds of properties here, giving the seller, the landlord exactly what they want, right? Putting it on Airbnb and covering your Airbnb fees, your management fees, $112 a month. Again, I'm being conservative here. I think you can actually get more than $75 a weekday. You can get $100 a weekday, maybe $125 on a weekend. And the higher you increase your rent, the lower your occupancy is going to be, right? Or the higher your occupancy. So you might drop this down to 80% occupancy, right? $1,100 a month in cash flow. I'll make this. The cool thing about this calculator is you can play with different scenarios. All right, so here you're getting $80 on a weekday, $100 on a weekend, 90% occupancy, and you're paying the seller exactly the rent that they want. You're getting $860 a month in cash flow. How many of these properties would you need to get $10,000 a month in cash flow? Well, let's look at that. I'm going to move this slider. If I got 7 properties, I'm getting $6,000 a month in cash flow. I'm going to move it over to 10, $8,600 a month in cash flow. Let me move it over to 15. Well, let's move it to 13. Let's move it to 12. There you go. 12 properties. I'm getting $10,000 a month in net cash flow. 12 properties, only 12. Then look at this. Let's go to Zillow. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. In just that area I circled, there's 33 properties that are listed for rent in that price range of $950 to $10,050 a month in rent. There's 33. What if I make this instead 900 to 1,100, 2+ bedrooms? 68 results. And what if I actually include condos and townhomes? 76. What if I click out of that? And I only want nicer homes, right? But I don't want the cheap low end. I don't want the real expensive ones. So I just do 900 to 1,200 a month. And let's say I really want a premium. I want 3+ bedrooms. 296 properties here. And that's just St. Louis. Do you think maybe out of that 296 rentals, and I'm not even looking at for sale by owners yet, do you think I could maybe find 12 that'll be open to an Airbnb if I give them the asking rent that they want? Now, obviously, it's got to be a nice house. This is a nice little Airbnb, a nice curb appeal type of a property, right? Looking inside, doesn't need any work. It's in great shape. Nice backyard. It's in a good area. Well, you can do an Airbnb on it maybe. So here's the thing. People go and they look for properties like we're going up to Ankeny, Iowa. Have any of you heard of Ankeny, Iowa? We're going up there in a couple, 3 weeks, and I'm going to be looking for an Airbnb. It's not in the touristy areas. It's not next to the capital or downtown or whatever hot touristy thing there is to do in Des Moines, Iowa, right? But I'm going to be looking for an Airbnb. And guess what? I have been looking, and a lot of the nice ones are already taken. So anyway, Airbnb is cool. And you can get this calculator for free. Play with the numbers. Look, all right, well, if it's $900 a month in rent, and I'm going to collect $70 and $90, and it's going to be 80% occupied, and I only have one, that's $550 a month in cash flow on that property. And I'm not paying any of my own money to buy that property. I'm not going out and get a loan. I'm just using not OPM. You've heard of that phrase, OPM is other people's money. I'm using OPP, other people's properties. Make sense? Super cool. So listen to this podcast. I'll put a link to this in the comments that I did with Brian Page. If you want to get on the webinar, go to reimpodcast.com/Brian, reimpodcast.com/Brian. And we're doing our encore on Sunday. But after Sunday, we might have some replays on that page. But go to that link right now and check out this free property profits calculator. I know you're going to get a lot out of it, and it's pretty cool. All right, so I'm going to get back here again. Check out the webinar, reimpodcast.com/Brian, reimpodcast.com/Brian. And if you want that calculator that I just showed you, go to propertyprofitscalculator.com. My fingers are weird. I'm trying to get it on here. propertyprofitscalculator.com. Cool. So who's got some questions? I'm going to go through the questions here. We've got R-Dub on the YouTubes. What's up, man? Glad you're here. Allie, hello from Fort Lauderdale. Hello, how are you? Margie is here. I'm here too. Thank you. Margie saw the webinar last night. What'd you think of it? Was it good? Allie says, thank you. Well, you're welcome. R-Dub is asking, I have to leave for my son's birthday dinner. I have a quick question. Should I be concerned about doing lease options or sandwich lease option deals in Ohio? Heck no, are you crazy? I just interviewed a guy today from Ohio, from Cincinnati, Ohio to be exact. His name is Matt Reed. I know the reflection's kind of weird. I apologize. Matt from Ohio, he does lease options all the time. He's been doing them for 20 years. And he just did a deal. We were talking about it on the interview where he's getting $500 a month in cash flow. He's getting $50,000. He's doing a sandwich lease option. He's getting $50,000 on the back end for profit. And he found 2 buyers, and he took one of them that has $20,000 that he put up front. $20,000 that he collected up front. Now, he's not even doing an Airbnb on that, but you can certainly do lease options in Ohio. In fact, as I'm doing this this video now, I'm actually speaking in Ohio in a week, April 13th and 14th, I think. Do you guys like the black and white, or is that just kind of weird? Should I stop doing that? Latina from Houston, what's up? I like Houston. I have a Houston Astros hat. Latina bought the WLO book. Nice. Thank you very much. Pedro, how do you suggest we furnish these places in order to set up for Airbnb? Great question. I'm glad you asked. And Brian is going to be answering that on the webinar. Go to reimpodcast.com/Brian, reimpodcast.com/Brian. I know I got a lot of URLs and I throw them out all over the place. But Brian will be talking about that specific question on the webinar. So good question, Pedro. Make sure you go there and check that out. Does the owner need to be aware that it's being promoted as an Airbnb? Yes. And I have no problem with telling them that. Not a big deal. Margie, yes, sounds really great. Awesome. Nice. Got another question from Mark. Oh, Mark's got a nice comment here. Listen to what he says. I've started several businesses, spent thousands getting them off the ground. A step-by-step blueprint, starting a business, generating income less than 60 days. Joe's course is an incredible value. Nice. Thank you. R-Dub, you're welcome, my man. And what software am I using for this live? Well, there's 2 of them. This one is called StreamYard, and then I'm also using Restream to push it out to the YouTubes and the Facebooks. And then Joe's stuff is great, question mark. Yeah, I think, yeah, of course it is. When will you be and where will you? I'll be in Cincinnati at the Great Wolf Lodge on April. Let me just look at my calendar real quick here. Cincinnati, April 13th and 14th. Great Wolf Lodge. And where? Like, what's it about? I don't know. But just Google Google Vina Jones Cox and Vina Jones Cox. And I think it's called the Create. It's like a workshop they're doing. All right. Got a question here from Latina. My question is when following up with a seller for lease options, then following up with the seller, do you know of any mortgage brokers that will allow you to do lease options? Right now, off the top of my head, no. But a mortgage broker they don't have to give you permission to do a lease option. Just do it. And then, so when I'm looking for mortgage brokers, though, I'm looking for people that have some experience of working with buyers who are credit challenged. What type of extra marketing do you have to do for higher end properties? I wouldn't say any extra. It's just what I always do. I go after sellers and landlords on Craigslist and Zillow. And when you combine this Airbnb strategy, it just crushes it because, you know, they may say no to a lease option. They don't want to sell it. And then you thought, you know, I do a lot of Airbnbs. You wouldn't be interested in something like that, would you? But I always approach the sellers with, whether it's high end or low end, like when I say low end, like 100 grand and up, but like, I'm always approaching sellers with this simple question, like, would you rather deal with all the tenants and vacancies and management headaches and repairs and all that? Or would you rather me deal with the tenant? And then I could do a sandwich lease option or an Airbnb on it, right? Yes, here we go. Trone, the Airbnb angle is cool. I learned about that from Brian a few months ago and I had forgotten, so I'm glad you've brought this up. Great. So yeah, what do you want to do now? Go watch my webinar with Brian that we just did, reimpodcast.com/Brian, reimpodcast.com/Brian. If you want this calculator that I was just showing, again, that link, and I'll put these links in the comments or the description above, propertyprofitscalculator.com. That's an Airbnb property calculator, right? But again, watch the webinar. I'm telling you, you're going to learn a lot from the webinar. Bring your pen and paper because you'll take a lot of notes, and it's really good. Just a few more comments here. Yeah, just do it, LOL. Come on, Mr. GG. No, Latina, your questions are good. I appreciate it. Pedro, I meant to say Joe's stuff is great. Thank you, Pedro. I appreciate it very much. All right, guys. Okay, good question here from Pedro. Have you ever had success doing wholesaling lease options on a listed property for sale by a realtor? I've done one or two in the past. Don't do a ton of them. I typically, if a house is listed with a realtor, I'll make more of a sandwich lease option offer. Realtors are great. I love them. I am a realtor. Sometimes it's hard to do lease option deals with realtors, so I don't chase them. They're not the low-hanging fruit. I have a good friend, John Jackson in Texas, who does a lot of them with realtors, and that's the only people that he targets are the homeowners of listed properties. All right, guys, listen, I got to go. Go watch this webinar right now, reimpodcast.com/Brian, reimpodcast.com/Brian. And get that calculator I just showed you, propertyprofitscalculator.com. We will see you guys later. Anything else here? All right, Brooks, good question. But Brian will answer that question on the webinar. He actually talks about how easy it is to close on these deals. It's not that hard. I got students, again, let's say this one more time, and then I'm going to go. I had Lena did a deal recently on a lease option, her first deal, and within 4 days had almost over $1,200 in Airbnb revenue. $1,200 in her first 4 days that she put the property. And she actually agreed to the seller. She paid the seller their full rent asking price and got the seller to agree to leave the furniture in there. And then I got a friend of mine, Andrew LeBaron from Phoenix, did a couple 3 lease option deals and turned them into Airbnbs. And Phoenix, a super competitive market, and is getting $3,000 a month in cash flow from just those 3 properties. And then recently, a friend of mine from Kansas City, James Dunwoody, did an Airbnb. He got the property on a lease option, and it's a property near Lake of the Ozarks, and he turned it into a vacation rental and is getting mad cash flow with that thing. And he's got a ton of equity in it. So there's so many options. You use the lease option strategy to find the properties. Airbnb is something that you need to really seriously think about turning them into a cash cow doing Airbnb. So go and watch the webinar with Brian, reimpodcast.com/Brian. I'm out of here, guys. Have a good, happy weekend. We'll see you. Bye-bye.